Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a review for a book I finally loved and finally read. I am so excited. So this book, if you're clicked on it, because when you click on book reviews, you know what I'm reviewing. It's not like it's a surprise when I announce it. So if you've clicked on this, you've either read this, which I feel like most of the world has, or you haven't and you've been living under a rock. No, I'm just kidding, because I literally just read it, so I've been living under a rock. But this came out in 1996. The revised version, which is what I read, came out, what was it, 1999? 1997? Something like that. There's a revised version that I have with a big postscript because there was some controversy with the book, and it was very exciting to read the postscript. I didn't realize there was so much drama going on. But this book I have been wanting to read for so long. If you watch my review of Breathless by Amy McCulloch, you know that I'm hugely into mountaineering stuff. Will never do it. Have zero interest to be a mountaineer or climb anything. I don't even like climbing ladders. I'm not going to climb the side of a mountain. But my husband and I are fascinated by mountaineering in the climbing world, especially Everest, K2. Whoa, fascinated. So somehow I haven't read literally the epitome of all things climbing in a book, Into Thin Air by Jon Krakauer. If you recognize this book, it's probably because you've seen it everywhere. If you recognize this author, he is also the author of Call of the Wild, which I feel like everyone read in high school. I did not read it because I thought it was going to be depressing, so I just didn't read it. And then he also wrote a current TV series. He wrote the book Under the Banner of Heaven, which has been adapted into the Hulu series following the Mormon murder case. So he's a big deal, and he used to be a journalist for Outside Magazine, and that is what this book is kind of about. So Into Thin Air, if you don't know, is about the 1996 Everest absolute disaster that happened that killed, 12 climbers, I think, on like a single day, over 2 days, something like that. Absolutely such a tragedy. It was terrible. And this book is so famous because he was there. He was on the team that most of the people died on. So he was one of the lucky few that survived on, I think it was Adventure Consultants, and the other team was Mountain Madness that was up there. But he was part of the team. He came on as a journalist for Outside to do a piece on guided tours on Everest because they're still a hotly debated topic because they're guiding people who don't have a lot of mountain experience up Everest, the tallest peak in the world. So a lot of people don't think guiding Everest should be a thing. So this is a first-hand account of what happened during the disaster. So it is so incredibly detailed. And because he's a journalist, he knows how to go about interviewing people, and he made friends with most of the people in this book while he was on Everest. So he was able to call them and get their direct accounts. And he even said, like, there's some accounts that conflict, and he writes about it in here. He writes about his survivor's guilt. He writes about what he did wrong. He writes about what other people did wrong without fully placing any blame on anybody. Like, he never says, this is this person's fault, except for on himself. He thinks that he basically killed somebody because of his actions. And it's just it is such a heart-wrenching book because it is so sad. But it's like nonfiction, it's true, everything happened. Supposedly we'll get to that. But it is so good. It is so good. I feel like it goes without saying this got a 5-star. It is fantastic. Oh my gosh, I will most likely be reading this again. It is so detailed, so fascinating. Absolutely love it. And I don't think you need to like mountaineering to like this. I'm glad I have read and watched and listened to so many other podcasts, movies, TV series, books about mountaineering, because there is a lot in here. There is a lot in here that I would have had to look up if I didn't. So keep that in mind. It is very detailed. He does have a lot of footnotes that explains a bunch of things. But yeah, no. It's better if you watch. I would highly suggest watching the TV show from Discovery called Everest. I think it's like Everest Beyond the Limit, something like that. Everest. I know it's at least called Everest, but it is a TV series that is following I think it's Himex. I don't remember if it's Himex, but it's following an Everest guided group in the early 2000s. And there's 4 seasons or 3 seasons. 3 or 4 seasons, and you actually are following a group of guided people going up Everest and seeing what they go through. So it gives you a good idea of what Everest looks like. It gives you a good idea of what they look like when they're summiting, what the what everything looks like. So I would highly suggest watching at least 1 season of that first and then reading this. Although I would suggest watching the last season before reading this, because if you don't know anything about Everest, there are 2 sides that are like the main climbing sides. There's the northern side and the southern side, and the first however many seasons of the Everest show follow the north side, and this book talks about the south side. So the last season of that TV show is the south side. So I would highly suggest watching the last season and then reading this, because it gives you a very good idea of what stuff look like, because it's hard to picture, because they have points on Everest where they talk about like the Khumbu ice fall. It's hard, like you don't know what to imagine there, but if you watch the TV series you get a good idea, or just look up the terms on Google would also be good. But that's kind of my recommendation. I really enjoyed watching that first and then reading this. It helped so much with my understanding of what was going on. But yeah, I don't know what else to say other than I just love this. It's a nonfiction book. There's nothing to say about it that the things that I love, the things that I disliked, there's really nothing of that there. Things that I liked are just everything about it. I love that it just feels so raw. It's a raw book because he does not pull any punches. He doesn't try to save the feelings of people in this book. It is, this person made this decision, this person made this decision. It is the facts, and he keeps his own opinion pretty well out. You can get some of his bias. Like, I was in journalism all 4 years that I was in high school, or 3 years. I don't think you could do it as a freshman, actually. I did it for so many years in high school, and they teach you in journalism class and stuff, in newspaper, to find the bias in nonfiction work, and that has ruined me. My teacher was so good at that. He was so good at teaching that, and now anytime I read a nonfiction work, you can find the bias. Like, you can clearly tell reading this. I don't even think you need help with it, but you can clearly tell who he blames for a lot of the issues. So that is like the only thing, is he definitely levels clear blame at a single person, which caused issues afterwards, and the postscript kind of deals with that. But it's so good. There's not really any spoilers because it's nonfiction. You can find this anywhere on the internet. If you just look up 1996, if you look up the year 1996, literally Everest will probably follow it, because it is such a famous, it was an international incident. Some other countries were blaming other countries for climbers dying, and it was an absolute mess and so sad. So I would suggest maybe looking into it a little bit, because there are many trigger warnings in this. I mean, death. There is a lot of death, and graphic death. So if you don't like death of any kind and you're thinking about reading this, I do not. It is sad. You will cry. It is very depressing. Oh my gosh. But it's good at the same time. This is one of those books that a lot of people need to read, because it talks about the political issues going on with Everest. It talks about the emotional problems with Everest and what is going on the mountain that probably shouldn't be, and that's causing these deaths. Because most of what happens on Everest is a lot of man-made errors. Too many climbers on the mountain, not having radio signal, choosing not to turn around. It's called mountain madness. You can see the peak and you won't turn around, but you need to turn around at a certain time or you're gonna be descending late at night. Most people who climb Everest can get to the top, but they don't get back down. That's normally where you find your issues, is getting back down, because people are either too tired or they summited too late. So there's so many human errors that this just needs to be read so you understand you can do it safely, but your dreams may be crushed because you can't do it. You need to be able to say, I'm done. You need to be able to throw in the towel. So it's one of those books that's so hard, because it talks about the human condition a lot. And it's very difficult, because while you're reading this, you're like, oh, I could do this. No, you probably can't. But that's the human condition, thinking we can survive, we're unbeatable, stuff like that. So it's definitely a look at morality or mortality and morality, to be honest. There's some parts that are, whoo, would I have done that in that situation kind of thing? So it's just, oh, it's such a good book. It's such a difficult book to read, but I loved it. One of the things that I do think there was an issue with, he put in way too many big words. I read a lot, and I was struggling getting through some of this. Like, some of the words, I'm like, I have never heard that word before. So it felt like a little bit pretentious and a little bit like, oh, this is definitely like a journalist who thinks he kind of knows better than other people writing it. So that's the only thing. I didn't love that part of his writing style, but otherwise, that was literally my only qualm about this book, was he used too many big words. So I feel like this is pretty good. It is a slow start because he wants you to fully grasp how long it takes to get up there. Like, you have to walk 30 miles to even get to base camp. So he wants you to understand how difficult it is, how hard it is even to get to base camp, and the conditions and stuff. So it is slow to start, but you get there and it is so worth it. It is so worth it because, I mean, it was slow about half of the, less than half. I would say probably a third of the book was really slow, and then 2/3 of it were just, we could not stop reading. It was crazy good. So, so much enjoyed this book. I needed this book so badly because I am in a terrible reading slump. Everything I've read, I haven't liked lately. So this kind of reinvigorated me, and I am so glad that I finally picked it up. Took forever, but I finally picked it up, and I'm so happy that I did. I forgot. There is a postscript in the back. So the drama with this book is that the person that he like kind of clearly blames for stuff took issue with it and released their own book called The Climb. And unfortunately, that author has passed away. He passed away a year after, he passed away in 1997, so right a year after the Everest disaster, because he was climbing another mountain called Annapurna and ended up getting swept away in an avalanche. So he's not around to talk anymore about this, but he co-published it with like a kind of a ghostwriter, but the guy is more in everyone's face than the actual like person telling the story. So he basically dictated the story to this guy, and the guy wrote it and published it. And they pretty much attack this book and say, this didn't happen like this, you left this out, you left this out. So there's a large postscript in the back explaining why the other book is wrong, what he left out, why there's been issues, what was left out, and why it was left out. Most of what he left out was to kind of like, it wasn't necessary, and he didn't want to confuse the reader, and he didn't want to make someone look worse than they already did, so he didn't feel it was necessary, but he included it in this. Within the postscript, he included stuff that was said he left out, and he put in some more interviews and some more emails. So if you are reading this version, I think it's the Book of the Month version, but if you read any newer copy, make sure, or check when you get it, that it has the postscript, because the postscript is actually really, really good and really important to read. So now that's all I've got for you. I really hope that you guys pick this up and you enjoy it as much as you can. Hope you get something out of it. Let me know if you guys have read this before, what you thought about it. If you read the other book, because I don't know if I'll pick the other book up. I don't really like how that author handled himself, so I don't know if I would pick that up because I don't know, I don't like that. So if you've read the other book, let me know if I should read it, if I need to read it, if you guys feel like it's necessary. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought about this book, what you thought about the review. Make sure to subscribe. I got hopefully more reviews coming out. I'm hopefully reading more books because I'm DNFing one currently. So I have no idea when another review is coming out. But I should have some TBR wrap-ups or monthly wrap-ups, and then new TBRs for the October season. I'm very excited. And that's all I got for you guys, so hopefully you read this, and I will see you guys in the next video.